the most critical aspect of fighting corruption anywhere sustainably is to try and get citizens involved. And I think that's very important, because the ruling class is the chief beneficiary of corruption. And therefore, to expect the ruling class to fight corruption, that's like class suicide, which is not likely to happen. Therefore, the significance of citizens' involvement is not under any question. However, the assumption that citizens, just by merely providing them the information, will take action, I think that there's a black box there, which will need to unpack.
Welcome to Akweya TV. Akweya TV, we're talking history, art, culture, and development. But one of the biggest development issues facing us, not just in Africa, but in every part of the world, is the issue of corruption. People describe corruption as the misuse of public office for private gain. But there are different ramifications of it anyway. However, many development sector activists and NGOs have been developing programs to curb corruption in the society. One of the leading organizations that has been pushing for that is the MacArthur Foundation and its On Nigeria programming. So today, I just said, okay, let's have someone in the studio with us who is really one of the great thinkers around the issue of corruption and anti-corruption. And he has suggested a number of critical things in terms of how the approach to corruption in Nigeria needs to change. He's a very important guest, and I will come back to just tell you who. Just hold on after this time out.
Hey, what's up, people? My name is Solomon Lange, and you're watching Akweya TV. God bless you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ochaya Ojofu. I am the founder of Akweya Children Carnival. Watch Akweya TV.
Ye masni ame Veronica Ochido. Engaga ya Akweya TV.
Agatugo gadam. Ihiegu kama Oge David Ubede. Mbo Bagaji, Togolega Agatu, local government of Benue State. Ungo reporter Akweya TV. Akweya TV.
All right, so the person I'm talking about in the studio with me is the Deputy Director Africa of the MacArthur Foundation. It's based in Abuja, but they do programming in different areas. But he is very particular about, he has done a lot about the On Nigeria project, where they're funding a lot of organizations to deal with anti-corruption issues. He has headed different programs, and you would love his conversation about corruption. I'm talking of Mr. Dayo Olaide. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much, Dayo, for having me.
Yes,
and I'm really excited to join you guys this morning.
Oh, thank you. So why is corruption so significant in everything we're discussing around development?
I think the central point is corruption poses the greatest danger to our democracy in this country.
Oh.
And I think the same can be said across the continent.
Okay.
In Nigeria, for example, a recent survey, well, not so recent survey, by PwC indicated that unless Nigeria dealt with corruption to try and reduce the level of corruption in the country, by 20 2030, we might be losing up to 35% of our GDP to corruption.
Wow.
I don't think there is anything that poses a greater existential threat to us. We might look at insecurity and think insecurity is the problem.
Yeah.
In fact, if you go to the literatures, you'll also see a strong correlation between high level of corruption and high level of insecurity.
Yeah.
So there is a connection as well.
Okay.
And so for us at the MacArthur Foundation, recognizing the challenge that this poses to the country, and having been here for over 2.5 decades, we reached out to Nigerians, and we were not surprised that Nigerians in 2015 identified corruption as top of what the country needed to deal with frontally.
Yeah.
Coming below that was insecurity, and then issues of service delivery, issues of population that we needed, particularly young people that we needed to begin to engage. So the significance of what we are trying to address here, corruption as a problem, has so many ramifications, and unless we deal with it as a collective and as a people, I think the threat to democracy is likely to keep rising.
You think that the program, you were talking recently, that you think that the programming, it's like our assumptions are not right as development sector people. Can you just do a recap what you're thinking?
So if you look at a lot of international development programming around corruption, we're getting a lot of things right.
Okay.
I think it's important to state that up front. We're getting a lot of things right. The approach that emphasizes strengthening the institutions of democracy, the institutions of oversight, the institutions of accountability, they are important.
Yeah.
And in the last 2 decades of Nigeria's democracy, Nigeria has made significant progress in that.
Okay.
I mean, we can talk about the establishment of the EFCC, ICPC, the reform of the Code of Conduct Bureau, the introduction of the Nigerian Extractive Industry Transparency Accountability legislation, public procurement, fiscal responsibility. I mean, we've done significantly well in that regard. But the sad part of it is, in spite of all of this progress, this improvement, corruption has not declined.
Okay.
So the question therefore is, for those who are engaged in programming, we need to be asking ourselves, if we are doing this and corruption is not declining, what's the problem? And it is that thinking that has forced us to begin to interrogate some of our assumptions. So one of the fundamental assumptions is that the most critical aspect of fighting corruption anywhere sustainably is to try and get citizens involvement. And I think that's very important, because the ruling class is the chief beneficiary of corruption.
Yeah.
And therefore, to expect the ruling class to fight corruption, that's like class suicide, which is not likely to happen. Therefore, the significance of citizens' involvement is not under any question. However, the assumption that citizens, just by merely providing them the information, will take action, I think that there is a black box there, which will need to unpack. In the case of Nigeria, for example, some of the reasons why Nigerians will be reluctant to want to speak out is they have humongous distrust for the system.
Okay.
Because every day they wake up and what they hear is, 84 billion. 117 billion. And these are, very recent figures. 84 billion related to the accountant general. 117 billion relating to the, I think it's the chief accountant of River State. EFCC. And every other day you wake up to hear this.
So Nigeria for 2 billion.
So Nigerians, I think in the first instance, have a huge distrust for the system. And therefore will not want to take action. Second is the issue of, even when I do speak out, am I safe? So I don't have protection for for whistleblowing. And you can recall what happened about 5 years ago when the whistleblower policy was first introduced. I mean, Nigerians were really excited.
Yeah.
But as I speak with you, I mean, I can count on my fingertips a number of whistleblowers that today have lost their jobs.
Yeah.
And are
Aaron
is one of them.
Yeah.
The FMBN guy is I can't remember his name now. But, so you find that there are instances where people have spoken out, but the system has failed them.
Yeah.
So add the distrust and the fear that the system is not going to protect me.
Yeah.
Then add that to the technical difficulties, the experience that I shared a couple of days ago, that I got arrested by the police, and the arrest was, I wasn't carrying my proof of ownership. And I said to the police, no, I'm not requested to carry this. But they insisted that it is part of what I am requested to carry. And they said I have to go to the police station. I said, that's fine. So I went with them. And we got to somewhere area 10, and they said, this is the police station. This was under a tree. Now, first I was scared to see about 5 or 6 of them around me, and all of them in uniform. So you can expect that people will keep driving off because they wouldn't know what was happening. I was agitated. Then this is not police station. And the next thing was, well, we are going to fill a statement. Then we'll take you to a mobile court. And if you are found guilty, then you will have to go for some psychological assessment to show that you are not mad. And they went on and on and on. I'm not going to go into how I got myself out, but you can imagine at a point, almost 3 hours after, I just said to myself, whatever they need from me, I need to get out of this place. So the technical difficulties that also exist in the system becomes an additional, stumbling block that makes it difficult for the citizens to want to take action. And I feel, therefore, that, all of these examples, they interrogate the validity of our assumption. And if our assumption must therefore, if we must therefore continue to program around these assumptions, we need to do more than what we are currently doing. So how do we address the distrust that citizens have for the system? How do we simplify the processes that makes it a lot easier for people to speak out and not run into technical difficulties? And how do we assure citizens that by speaking out, the system will actually protect you? Now, what is MacArthur doing? One of the things that MacArthur has started doing is launching these behavioral approaches to say that institutions are important, but there are also social approaches, right? Social beliefs and values that sort of encourage corruption. And we need to dismantle those ones. And I think that so far, very few programs are paying attention to this.
And you have, MacArthur funded a study, the Chatham House study, the social norms.
That's correct.
Approach. And that was like, for me, the most mind-blowing, the whole idea that there are social norms around some things. And then there are just the real existential people. So a taxi driver who is stopped really needs to get about doing his business and just needs to
pay off and move on. And that's the word, sort.
Yes. And now you see some of the ridiculous amounts being levied as fines. So to say if you're using a mobile phone while driving, maybe it's 100,000, So it makes it paying 10,000 naira to avoid paying 100,000 is so. We're going to go on a break and come back. After that, we're going to discuss really what should be done in terms of removing these systemic obstacles. So, for those of you who have been with us, just stay tuned. Please share this discussion if you are watching us on YouTube. But if you are watching us on NTA, go on YouTube. You can help us share or call your friend to come sit in your room and watch us. Just hold on, we'll be right.
At Akweya TV, we serve you with premium content on arts, culture, education, development, politics, entertainment, and lots more. Whichever perspective of our social lives as people may interest you, Akweya TV has got you covered. You can view our programs daily on our social media handles at Akweya TV, and don't forget on our YouTube that you will subscribe to our YouTube channel below. Thank you.
Thank you for staying with us on this conversation around anti-corruption. I'm glad some of you have just shared that video. Thank you so much for sharing the video. And if you haven't done, it's not too late. Please click on the share button and also the subscribe button. It does a lot of good for the society and for us too. Okay, so Mr. Dayo Olaide, you have said things earlier about the system that's more like encourages corruption. It almost rewards corruption. What are the key things that could be done to reduce some of the fines that are just so heavy and the processes to pay up fines are so cumbersome? Now we've got Flutterwave, OPay, different platforms. Is it possible to integrate this, like the way Remitter has been integrated and all of that? Is it possible to integrate this such that people pay up fines just maybe with a short code, star something, just pay your 500 naira for overspeeding and all of that? Would that reduce corruption?
I think the question of what is a sufficient punishment, the judge is still out there on this. But if so here's how I will approach it.
Yeah.
If in any 10 cases of corruption, right, it can be established that 8 or 9 out of 10, it will be detected, and I will suffer consequences, right? That for me is an effective punishment, is an effective response to corruption.
But traffic offenses are being detected and we suffer consequences, but the consequences go into the private
I don't
pocket.
even think we suffer if you think about consequences, because we are looking at corruption as a public problem.
Okay.
Right? The idea will be that when consequences are being defined, it must be that the consequences are such that will advance the public interest ultimately.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So the fact that if the guy who has stolen 84 billion and is investigated and prosecuted, and the 84 billion can be recovered. Right? That's the first. You are returning the money to the public. And secondly, this guy can be punished, not because a lot of the times we try to recover the money and then let go. Let them go. But if the punishment will stretch to the point of this guy has returned the money, but in addition, the guy is serving some jail time somewhere. What the benefit to the public is that he's sending the right signal to the rest of his kind that if you steal from the public, you'll be punished this way. You will be sentenced to jail. The money that you have stolen, you are also unable to benefit from it. So we need to rethink. My own opinion. We need, and this is in agreement with you. We need to rethink our sanction system. Now, fines that you get arrested in the police and there is POS to pay it. It can be good only if we are thinking that such sanction is to raise fund. It's not to raise fund. The sanction is to actually alter a behavior. And when the sanction is 500 naira or 1,000 naira that I can easily pay out of my pocket, what it does is that for those who can afford it, they believe I can break the law and get away.
Now, I was thinking that maybe it will be linked eventually, since it's traceable now that you are paying fines. Then it, for instance, easier to also link with your renewal and insurance premiums.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So And I think now you are beginning to actually expand what we mean by the consequences.
Yes.
First, you want to ensure that you pay in terms of your time for what you have done to the public.
Yeah.
You pay in material time, in material terms as well, the money that you have to, go with. And then you suffer consequences, not just in the now, but also into the future.
Yeah.
That's why if you break the traffic rule or driving code outside the country, the way it works is, first, if you break, let's use an example of, say, you break traffic light. Yeah. There are fines, depending on, I've driven, once I drove from, I think it was in Ottawa, and I realized that the person that was, the friend that was sitting next to me had told me that the most challenging part of driving in Canada is making a left turn.
Okay.
So he had told me that.
Okay.
So when we got to the place and I needed to make a left turn, I needed to hear from him, who is the owner of the car, that it is okay. And when I finally made that, he told me if I had turned on red, whether a car was coming or not, $350 straight away. And the $350 is not something that somebody is coming to speak to you. You just get the bill from your mail that you have done this, and this is your bill. Of course, you can go to court to go and challenge it. But the system is such that it is not the police that gets the money from you. It's the state directly that gets the money for you. Okay. That's the first punishment. Now, if you do it for the second time, it affects your point. So which means even your driving license, right, is now threatened because they could quite easily withdraw. The license, which will bar you from driving. Third is, even for the period that your point is declining, right, it's going to also affect your insurance. Yeah. So the insurance company asks for your driving license, runs your driving license, and realize that you have been...
You're a high risk.
You're a high risk. Your premium goes up. Yeah. So you find that in such a climb, the sanction system has been structured in a way that it will pinch you. Yeah. Let me use an example. So this was on a Sunday. Yeah. All right. And maybe it's best not to mention them. But this was under the, we have the 9th National Assembly now, right? Yeah. So this was the 8th Assembly. I was coming from church and I needed to pick up something in the office. So I decided to go to the office. And as I was coming out of the office on a Sunday, you know how Mitama is on a Sunday. Quiet, nothing. And there comes along this big man who was in the National Assembly with his entourage. I was waiting at the red light and this guy just went phew, at the red light. Now, if that was somewhere else, you wouldn't do that. No. I tweeted this to say that this person just did this and that, but you can be sure that nothing was going to happen. And indeed, nothing happened. So already our system identifies or, differentiates between the powerful and the weak. So I guess the short of what we are saying is that our sanction system needs to be revised. That's one important aspect of the fight against corruption that all of us need to sit down and tell ourselves, is it enough that you can pay 10,000 naira according to the books? Or we need to make sure that even when you are paying that 10,000 naira, that 10,000 naira is not just what you suffer now, but also what you suffer into the future. That's why today, everybody is saying, yes, the sexual offenders register is critical. Because what it does is anyone who is giving out, anyone who is giving out a home now needs to go and check that this guy is not a risk to my own children or the neighborhood. And we need to popularize this. And this is where the media becomes critical, to help to popularize that if you do this, this is the sanction. And in fact, point out some of those people that have been so sanctioned. I think I'll just stop there.
So we're talking about, you see So this whole idea of a social sanction, it's also a big challenge where even for convicted criminals or people who have been corrupt, you know, it's shown that they've been corrupt. I mean, people like Bode George came out of prison. People wore Ashwebi to go and receive him and say, our criminal is here. We had Ibori. People say, hey, here is ours. He was convicted. Yes, he's home. Lamesia. We have many cases. Is the society ready for all of this good work we're doing? Is that, what should we do? Or is there a need to just really tear down the system and build from ground up? Is the system too alien to our people?
So I think what we are seeing is, the examples that you have seen, is the classic expression of the difficulties in fighting corruption.
Yeah.
Corruption is only bad to the extent that you are not benefiting from it.
Yeah.
And it cuts across.
Yeah.
And I think the examples you have given just sort of speaks to that.
Yeah.
So how do we fix it? Is it by tearing the system? I don't think the system has to be torn apart for us to be able to get to that point. Instead, I think just as we are coming to recognize that strengthening our institutions are not enough, we need to increase our programming to address those social dynamics and enablers of corruption. So today, we say that religious groups, the entertainment industries, the celebrities all have a role to play in the fight against corruption. And some of the roles is just basically encouraging them to speak out and present themselves as role models. The society needs more role models. That's one. Second, a lot of the programming up until this point has targeted adults. MacArthur, for example, we are now encouraging, curriculum development, training, socialization for people, for children. We might not be able to see the immediate impact of this, but in 5 years, in 10 years, we want to be able to say that we've been able to reach 2 million people. And these are the values that we've been able to, put across. So essentially, just as you described earlier, the social norms, we need to begin to program as a nation around what are the values, what do we stand for as a people, what do we stand for as a country. If you have thieves going into the National Assembly, into our politics across board, state, federal level, right? It is a stronger message than what you and I can possibly say. So we need to, to find a way of actually decentralizing this conversation about anti-corruption accountability across the entire spectrum of what this nation represents, into our democracy, into our education, into our conversations on governance, into our relationship, social contracting between the people and the government at all levels. One government or one administration cannot tackle corruption. It has to become a state policy. Every administration at all levels. I think that's the only way that we can, in 20 years, say, okay, we've made some progress. So essentially, my point here is, in the same way that if you look at the Republicans, in the US, massive amount of money goes into, actually educating the public and disseminating the Republican values and, our beliefs. In the same way, Nigeria needs to do the same. Nigeria as a government, Nigeria as a people, and its development partners that are working with it. We need to define what are our national values and make sure we work this into what we teach in primary school, in secondary school, in pre-primary school. These are all essential aspect of anti-corruption that I don't think programming is currently covering. And then finally is to say that we need to fix our electoral system.
Yeah. I mean,
those thieves,
delegates have become the bomb.
I mean, this is their season.
Yeah.
And it's really sad to see this kind of narrative still, being the mainstream narrative about our country in 2022.
People are making videos of the bribery and even returning of bribes and sharing on social media. So I saw one yesterday and even this morning, and my comment, my response to the message was, I just hope that the class of politicians running this country have a sense of history. Yeah. I'm not sure corruption was this bad before previous republics came to an end. Yeah. It's a major threat to our democracy now, which was where I started from, that corruption poses the gravest challenge to our democracy. Yeah. And so my hope will be that Nigerians who are seeing this are not only amusing themselves and entertaining themselves with those videos, but that we are seeing the long-term danger this means. Take the example of, I can't verify this, but in one of the cases, we were told that the guy who made, the candidate who made the, who had paid about 75 million or 78 million naira bribe to delegates, had to use bandits to recover his money. Yeah. A situation where we're now using bandits, the same bandits that have put us in where we are. Yeah. It's a dangerous narrative. Yeah. So every Nigerian must be angry, should be angry about what is happening between the candidates and the delegates. The amount of money and the shame that this is bringing to our democracy, it touches on all of us, and we need to speak out. Thank you so much, sir. You are always a delight to have, and I look forward to having you again on Akweya TV, because this issue of corruption and anti-corruption, it needs to be given the kind of prominence that you have advocated, and really thank you very much.
Always a pleasure, Diego.
Thank you very much. Yes. All right. So for those of you who have seen this conversation, what do you think really new ideas need to come in when we talk of anti-corruption? What do you think? Put your comments in the comment section, or if you're watching on NTA, you can send us an email, tv@akweya.com, or you can send us a WhatsApp. The numbers are scrolling on the screen, but you can see us on all social media at Akweya TV. We're on TikTok, we're on Twitter, we're on all the platforms. See you, and thank you for keeping a date with us.